Welcome back to my third video of the day, guys. If you're watching this video, if you're after the last two that came out, so predictions. At the start of each season, you usually do predictions, and I did my regular season predictions. And last year, I got 8 out of 32, and I said that wasn't good enough. Damn, it must have been good enough, because this year I got a whopping 1 out of 32 teams in the correct spot. And yeah, I feel like I've lost all credibility as I was looking back at my predictions, and I'm remembering as I'm doing it, I'm like, oh my goodness, what have I done as I'm doing this? So this is the third video I wanted to get out by noon, and the power rankings will be coming later, and then I'm not sure when the power rankings will be done, but it will be out today for sure. When is the question? But let's go through these predictions. You see this mad scramble on the board, and I promise I'll explain it, but we'll go through the divisions first. Let's start with the Pacific Division, where each team has 8 teams, so it's easy to predict. I go 1 through 8 in my predictions. The plane that's flying over would please stop. That'd be great, thank you. The Pacific Division. Well, should we go top to bottom or bottom to top? I think we'll go bottom to top. Originally in 8th place, well, now in 8th place, we have the Anaheim Ducks. I originally had them 7th and had San Jose at 8th. They essentially just swapped spots in my predictions, so there wasn't really too much off there. Vancouver, I originally had in 3rd, making the playoffs. They did not make the playoffs. They finished 6th, and instead the Kings are in their spot. Calgary, I originally had finished 2nd in the division, making the playoffs as well. They did not make the playoffs either, so that's 2 playoff teams already out that were already in. So I'm debating whether or not I should pause this and calculate a score of how many spots off I was combined, but now we'll not do that. So 1 spot off each. Vancouver, so 1, 2, 3 spots off. 1, 2, 3 spots off. And now let's move on to Seattle, who was in the playoffs. First team that's in the playoffs. I might as well make it just a line. No, I won't make a line. But Seattle makes the playoffs. I originally had them 6th in the division. I had them out of the playoffs. So Seattle definitely was one that not many people predicted to be in after last season, and they surprised a lot of people, going from 60 to 100 points, so congrats to Seattle. LA finished 3rd when I originally had them finishing 4th in the playoffs, so not too far off there. I'm not too mad with that. Edmonton, I originally had winning the President's Trophy, in which we'll be going over more of that stuff in the power rankings. What's going to be similar to last year's final style, yeah. So Edmonton finishing 2nd in the division. I originally had them 1st. In Vegas, winning the conference in the West. I originally had getting the 2nd wild card in 5th place. However, they did not get to that spot. They instead finished at 1st in the conference instead of 5th in the division in the 2nd wild card. In the Central, Chicago and Arizona swapped places. Essentially, that wasn't too far off. And Nashville and St. Louis. I originally had Nashville and St. Louis being 2 and 3. Nashville finishes 6th, St. Louis finishes 5th, both outside the playoffs. Winnipeg, I originally had 6th. They finished 4th in the playoffs with the 2nd wild card. Minnesota and Dallas, I originally had 4th and 5th. I had Dallas 4th, not in the playoffs, and Minnesota 5th, because I had 5 teams in the playoffs in the Pacific and 3 teams in the Central. So both of them were out. Dallas finishes 2nd, Minnesota finishes 3rd instead of 5th and 6th. Colorado, the only team I got right, wins the division and gets the only point out of the 32. They finished 1st in the Central, win the division. In the Atlantic, Montreal I had finishing 7th, they finished 8th. Detroit I had finishing 5th, they finished 7th. Ottawa I had finishing 4th, they finished 6th. Buffalo I had finishing last and 8th, they finished 5th. Florida I had originally in 3rd, and they're in 4th. Tampa I originally had in 2nd, they're in 3rd. Toronto I had originally in 1st, they are in 2nd. Boston I originally had in 6th. Not many people, I don't think, had Boston doing what they did this year. No one saw it coming. It was a blind slide to the face. Boston finishing with 65 wins was unthinkable. It still is unthinkable. I had them finishing 6th. They win the President's Trophy. Just to show how much anyone could really know. Anything could happen. In the Metropolitan Division, Columbus finishes last when I originally had them finishing 4th, and in the playoffs, by the way. I had 4 teams in the playoffs in each of these divisions as well. Flyers I had finishing 8th, they finished 7th. Capitals I had finishing 5th out of the playoffs, they finished 6th out of the playoffs. Penguins I originally had 3rd. They finished 5th out of the playoffs instead of in the playoffs. Islanders I originally had in 6th. They finished 4th in the playoffs. Rangers I originally had in 1st in the division. They finished 3rd. Carolina I originally had in 2nd. They finished 1st, winning the division. Devils I originally had in 7th, and they come 2nd. That concludes the predictions. I really don't want to go too much into this. You could see how bad they were and how wide open the season was. That's going to be all I have for you guys right now. I'm going to take a break from making videos and get some other stuff done now because this is the 3rd video this morning. So I want to thank you guys so much for watching, and I shall see you guys in the next one. Goodbye.